Alrighty, 26 minutes now past 7 o'clock. Speaking of being in the boondocks, not really in the boondocks, but we're talking with Sara McDaniel, who lives in Sarepta. Some folks think that's the boondocks, but Sara has an interesting story to tell. We're going to get to that in just a moment. First of all, Sara, thanks for coming in this morning and telling us about your adventure.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Alrighty, we're going to talk about your project, the house. And we'll let you talk more about that over on, it's McDonald Street, right?
Yes, correct.
Right across from Academy Park.
Yep.
But first of all, let's meet Sara McDaniel. Who is Sara? Tell us about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Spring Hill, and after that left for college and was away from Webster Parish for about 15 years. Did a stint in El Dorado, Salt Lake City, and most recently Corpus Christi. And About 3 years ago, I just started feeling the pull to return home to Webster Parish.
Okay, and how did you wind up coming to Minden?
Good question. So my parents still live in Spring Hill.
Okay.
And I knew that I needed to be closer to my parents. They're in great health. They're fine. But I just suddenly realized, I maybe have 20, 30 years left with them if I'm lucky. And I just wanted to be closer. But with my job, I travel for work. So I also need to be close to an airport. So basically, I looked all over East Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Arkansas for a place to live. I knew I wanted an older house. Again, needed to be closer to an airport, wanted to be closer to my parents, and just fell in love with Minden. It met every scenario that I needed to meet. So that's why I chose Minden.
Okay. How did you come by moving into this particular house that you now have?
Good question. So it was December of 2014, I believe. And that's kind of about a year from the stirring in my heart to come home. And so I knew I wanted an old house and was just driving around Minden. I believe it was December 26th, 2014, and traveling through the historic district and came across this house. And it was amazing. And a lot of people maybe couldn't have seen the beauty that I saw. It was completely covered with trees and weeds and basically falling down, but I just immediately felt the draw to that house and then began the process of trying to find out who owned the house. Was it vacant? Was it occupied? And how could I go about maybe securing it?
And that process was not easy nor quick.
Correct. It took about 22 months. I reached out to the family immediately. I did not get an immediate response, but did get a response a couple of weeks later, and they basically said they had entertained selling it, but were not interested at the time, but just asked me to keep in touch. Okay. And so basically over the next 22 months, that's exactly what I did and was pleasantly persistent. The family never would tell me no. But just that they weren't quite ready. So basically, I just stayed with them every month, every 6 weeks, just checking in. And finally, I guess it was July of 2016, I got a text message that said, "Let's proceed." Okay.
And all this time, you're holed up in Sarepta or in the area?
I was in Corpus Christi at that time. Okay. And flying back and forth, every 6 weeks or so to see family. And every time I would come home, I would go by the house. And I spent time walking around the house 7 times, like the Jericho story, praying over it, laying hands on it. I actually took a rock from the house, and that was my prayer rock. And over that 22-month period, I would hold that rock and just pray over the house and just, ask the Lord to deliver me that house or take the desire away. And he never took it away. And so I just stayed with it because I felt in my heart and in my being that the house was supposed to be mine.
And then you get the financing, all that works out, you get the house, you open the door. Then what do you think?
The family actually let me see it about a year before I bought it. And so I knew going in what I was up against. It needed complete renovation. It needed new electrical, new plumbing. There was stuff everywhere that needed to be removed. It needed painting, new kitchen, new bathrooms. So I knew going in what I was up against. But just the feeling of getting the keys for the first time and knowing that it was mine was incredible and such a blessing and such a dream come true.
What has it been like since you got the home and sometimes when you start a project and you find more problems along the way, have there been hurdles? Have there been challenges?
You know what? No.
Really?
There has been 0 hurdles, 0 challenges, and that is a huge blessing in of itself. Everything to date, and we have about 2 months left to finish up, but everything has been completely smooth. And I have an amazing team of carpenters and contractors. Bolin Construction is sort of heading up the project, and they have been incredible. So no surprises. Everything has been smooth, and that is completely unheard of for a house that's almost 100 years old.
You've done some research about this house, when it was built and all that. And you said it was built in 1926, is that right?
26, correct.
What have you learned about that home since you've been around?
It was built in 26 by the Fitzgerald family. The Fitzgerald house sits just within a stone's throw of my house. And so most people in Minden are familiar with that house, which is now the Slade home, I believe. But it's my understanding that the Fitzgeralds built my house in 26, sort of as a guest house rental property. And over the years, there's been several families that have lived in that house. And one family, local family that I've connected with is the Hodges family. Most people have heard of Finette Hodges. She's a local entrepreneur here in Minden, and they lived in the house in the 70s, and they've shared lots of pictures and stories and connected with her daughter, who, ironically now works for the same company that I worked for. And that's been a huge blessing. But most recently, it was owned by Martha Fitzgerald, who is the daughter of the Fitzgerald House family. And so she has lived in it for the last couple of years and eventually has transitioned over to assisted living. And it was up to her sons to sort of, take over the care of the home.
Is there an estimated date of when this will be complete and you'll get to walk in and stay there?
Yes, hopefully Labor Day. Everything is on track for that. I'm asking the Bolins on a weekly basis, are we on track? Is this looking good for a Labor Day move in? And so far the answer is yes. So hopefully it will stay like that. And in September, I'll be living in the house. You
mentioned you were working in corporate. What is your career? What are you doing for a living as you do all this?
Good question. So I am an educational sales consultant for a company called Teacher Created Materials. And so I work with school districts, mostly in West Texas and in Arkansas. So I spend lots of time on an airplane, lots of time traveling.
You're going to continue that work when you move in? Okay.
I am. So I'll just head down to Shreveport Airport to fly out.
Now, at some point, they're going to want a tour of this place.
They are. And I would love for everybody to come out on December 9th. That is the Minden Historic Residential District Christmas Tour of Homes. So the Cottage will be on there, as well as Rachel and Patrick Miller's house, the Irvin house, and also the McCullough house, which are all within walking distance. So it's going to be a great tour. Rachel and Patrick's house is also newly renovated. I'm using a lot of the same local contractors that they use. So Rachel and Patrick have been instrumental in helping me with this whole process. So December 9th, I believe it's from 2 to 6 that afternoon. I would love for everybody to come out and support our historic district.
Okay, we've talked about the house and the work on the house and the changes of the house. How about you? How has this changed you? Have you learned anything in this process of not just working on the house, but coming to Minden and learning about Minden, learning about the area? How's this affected you personally?
Well, I can tell you that renovating old houses is extremely addicting. And this is probably the 8th or 9th house I've renovated over the course of my life. So it's definitely not my first rodeo at all. But with Minden, it just feels like Mayberry. It does. I love the brick streets. I love the walkable amenities for my cottage. There's a coffee shop within steps that I was so thrilled to hear. The Broken Bean was opening in Minden. And so it really is a dream come true. And, we'll see what happens over the next, 6 months to a year or so. But I can definitely see myself maybe renovating some other houses in Minden. So we shall see.
You answered I was going to ask you, once this project is complete, I know this is going to be your home.
Yes.
But are you going to maybe look at other projects down the road?
I am. I've already got my eye on a couple. You know, there are a lot of houses in Minden that are gorgeous, that are falling down, that need to be renovated, and that need to be loved. And so I would be thrilled to be a part of that renovation, restoration, rejuvenation process of Minden and grab up some of these old houses and just bring them back to life. That would thrill me to no end.
One good thing, too, if you hit yourself on the thumb with a hammer, the ER is just behind your house.
Stone's throw from my house.
So
you're right.
You're covered there.
You're right.
All right. Once again, you hope to move in by 1st of September.
Correct.
And you'll be on the tour of homes around Christmas time, December 9th. So folks can come in and take a look at this home. I don't know, is there a house number on the street?
It's 411.
411
Yes.
McDonald, right across from the Academy Park.
You got it.
And you can sit there and watch folks play tennis.
And I get to play tennis right across the street.
I mean, you
so
really
exciting.
picked a good spot. But the house has a lot of history.
Yes.
You're in the historical district, I do believe.
Yeah, it's interesting. It actually sits just outside the boundaries of the historic district.
Really? I got a feeling that's going to probably change.
Maybe so. We'll see. Miss Fitzgerald wasn't too keen on her house being viewed and sought after, and so she didn't want to be a part of that, is my understanding. Mm-hmm. But it's still in the historic district. It's just not technically within the boundaries, if that makes sense.
It's close enough.
It's close enough. You're right. You're right.
Nonetheless, even if it is or it isn't, it's just going to be a showpiece, I'm sure. And a lot of folks were excited to see that home get new life.
They are. I have heard so many stories about people that have loved that house over the years and just felt like a deep sadness for the state that it had gotten in. And I've heard stories about, many people trying to buy it, trying to purchase it, and they could never, get the Fitzgeralds to sell it. So I just feel so blessed that the family, appreciated my story and appreciated my love for the house and chose me to purchase it.
If someone wants to kind of follow along, they can go online. How can they get views of the work that's going on at the home? Tell us about that.
Good question. So I do have a blog set up, simplysouthern.cottage.com. I don't have a whole lot of time to write right now, but I'm trying to post pictures every day, both on Facebook and Instagram. And you can find that at facebook.com/simplysouthern.cottage and also Simply Southern Cottage on Instagram.
All the best to you. We're looking forward to seeing the finished product. I know you've just been a labor of love as well as a place to live.
Yes.
All right. Sara McDaniel is our guest this morning with the home there on 411 McDonald, the former Fitzgerald residence, and she's going to open it up to the public in December during the Christmas tour of homes. Hopefully she'll be in there by September and you'll be a full-fledged Mindenite.
That's right. Yes.
Thank you for your time and best of luck.